What industry is a lot shadier than it seems?
Nursing homes. My mom works at one and is basically telling me she's hiring a new person every month. Why would anyone want to clean up an old person for $15 an hour when they can easily make $20 an hour at Target? So then my mom, who is close to retirement age, is stuck working herself to the bone to cover shifts because she genuinely cares about her patients. She is so burnt out but can't leave because she never made enough to retire and knows if she leaves, her patients will get even greater subpar care in her absence. The company basically preys upon her empathy, and it is sick. She is so scared she will end up in a care facility like the one she works in. It breaks my heart.
Avocado farms. Most of the farms in Central America are taken over by the cartel because of how much money is in selling avocados.
Limes from Mexico are the same. Most fruit from Mexico, but avocados and limes are the most involved.
Recycling. A lot of stuff gets shipped to Asia or just dumped in a landfill.
It probably still happens, but a couple years back, China clamped down on stuff being separated and makes it not worth it. Just funny though that our recycling plan is to ship it on a super ship to China that can burn 2 million gallons of crude oil. Only thing we can do to make it legit is make the garbage supercores in the country build recycling plants here in the country. Garbage business is shady, and with all the lobbying and money involved, it will never happen.
The maritime industry. Most of the big companies do things by the book and treat crews well because they're afraid of lawsuits and unions. But many smaller mom and pop companies break laws and violate safety regulations with reckless abandon because they're not as visible and can stay under the radar, so to speak. It's very common for a small company to ask a captain or crew to do something illegal and dangerous in order to increase profit, and for the captain and crew to comply out of fear of losing their jobs. And that's just the U.S. maritime industry. Sailors from poorer nations who work on ships are often fed little more than rice and cheap ramen for months at a time and paid pennies for their backbreaking work. I love running tugs for a living, but the industry as a whole is rife with shady business.
I can confirm. I was once shanghaied by an American company and ended up stuck for 2 weeks in the middle of the Atlantic. I was supposed to be doing 3 to 4 days of dockside work. We left dock to do some nearshore testing in the harbor, but when we'd been steaming for an hour, I finally went to the bridge to find out what was going on. Turns out they'd failed to secure permits and were told they couldn't do any unauthorized testing in this country's territorial waters. So without informing the contractors on board, me and my team decided to head to international waters outside of this country's exclusive economic zone. That's 200 nautical miles offshore. We spent 2 weeks, 400 to 500 nautical miles offshore before they dumped us in the Canary Islands. I should have known it was going to be a terrible trip when the crew chief aggressively got in my face within 20 minutes of us boarding because I refused to let anyone on my team work until they'd had 8 hours of rest. We'd been in transit for 30 hours at that point, and I deemed it unsafe to work until we'd rested. There are loads of amazing marine companies out there, but many still think it's the Wild West.
I don't know if it falls under maritime, but I took a job listing for a cruise ship, and now I tell all my coworkers to never take a job with one. I'm a stagehand and theater technician. I make decent money fresh out of college, 18 to $24 an hour, depending on venue, even without joining the union, because I do specialized work. Looked into lighting tech spot on a cruise ship, and I'd be getting minimum wage, working 50 hours and 7 days a week. Wi-Fi on board costs money out of my paycheck. I'd be in charge of passenger safety off hours if an alarm goes off, and we have to get people onto rescue rafts. I'd have a roommate in a small bunk, and all my wages would go directly into a ship debit card so I could give my income straight back to the company to eat. There's something about living and working on a boat in the middle of the ocean seems to make employers think they don't have to actually care for their employees. I can imagine working on a boat that isn't filled with people on vacation would be even worse.
The wig industry. There are pretty much only two wig makers in the world, and they repackage the wigs according to what company you buy from. So a Beyonce at one company might be another company's Auburn blonde. Also, when I worked for a company, we had a lifetime guarantee on the wigs. So people would have it for a few years, then return it. All we did was wash it in an industrial washing machine, restyle it, and then sell it as new.
I remember in investigative journalism years ago that followed up the supply chain of human hair wigs and found that they mainly come from two sources: temples in India where the poor donate their hair for blessings, or goat hair.
People working unloading suitcases at the airport. I have a friend working there, and he says a lot of workers steal things from the suitcases.
The addiction treatment industry. Trust me, there are some good programs, but a lot of very greedy, evil people that capitalize on providing you treatment, then you relapsing, and getting you into the cycle of treatment, relapse treatment. It's very shady.
Clothing donation bins. It all gets sorted and separated and sold. The trash gets donated at the very bare minimum required. 12 years ago, my old warehouse landlord had a $50 million business just sorting the clothes. Vintage, designer stuff got sold for top dollar. Medium quality sold in bulk. Bad quality sold in bales by weight. Garbage quality donated. They had 20 employees just sorting belts. Same goes for book donations. It all gets sold on Amazon and the trash recycled or exported to third world countries. Less than 5% of profits got donated. And since they were non-profits, executive pays were sky high and corporate profits beat zero.
Most consultants, it's very rare you get a specialized service. They come up with a common method for doing things, apply it to most projects, and charge thousands a day for it.
Many, if not most companies, bring in consultants to justify doing something they would have done anyway. It gives you an outsider to blame when you fire people or re-engineer their jobs into pay reductions. Consultant just sounds better than hireable fall guy for the stuff that is already planned.
The mattress industry. I have a severe allergy to dust mites. It's so severe, the allergist called all of his support staff away from the patients they were with so he could look at my arm where the test patch was and told them, "You may never see a test result like this again." Now, dust mites literally eat dead human skin cells, and any mattress is going to inevitably become loaded with those as time passes. So I bought a cheap mattress once, and when I got it home, my reaction was so bad I had to rewrap it and place it outside the house. I never even got through a single night. Almost immediately after laying down on it, my throat started closing. I knew what was happening and why, and I dragged that thing outside and slept in the spare room that night. When I called the mattress store and explained why I needed them to come get the thing, the guy says, "Oh, you must have seen that TV special. I guarantee our mattresses are made from all new material." So I went online and found the TV special report and watched it. Seems like a standard practice at the time, 1994, was to take used mattresses in trade and sell them to a refurbisher who in turn just stripped off the old cover and sold a new one over the old innards. The investigators find everything from rat droppings and semen to urine and even human feces inside all those refurbished mattresses. So I call back and tell the guy, "I don't care whether they come pick it up or not, I'm leaving it outside. I'll pursue getting my money back whatever legal way I can." And to my surprise, they actually sent a truck to pick the mattress up and gave me my money back.
Cosmetics. The industry is highly unregulated, and there's not a lot of consequences for making false or misleading claims about products. Who knows what they put in those things?
The funeral business. Guilting little old ladies into spending money they don't have to give their husbands a funeral they deserve.
Charities. I work in finance, so I've seen a lot of charities that receive donations and the money just sits in cash in some corporate bank account earning 0.05%. Many of them either won't or don't feel incentivized to hire a professional advisor who will create projections for a budget and an investment policy statement and invest their reserve money appropriately so it stays ahead of inflation. These charities don't have a good understanding of their cash flow needs, so they play it conservatively and sit on too much cash. They've told me that their donors don't want them to lose money, so they won't invest it. Yet cash is a guaranteed loss in terms of real purchasing power. I find it imprudent to say the least, and not what a true fiduciary should be doing. After seeing this with so many charities, I'm a little pessimistic, and I don't really donate anymore. I don't need my dollars to sit in some corporate bank account earning 0.05% and wasting away with inflation. Before I donate to a charity, I read their Form 990 to see where the money is going or if they're sitting on a big stockpile of cash. If I donate, I either want my money to go to work helping the beneficiaries of the charity immediately or be invested for growth income in the charity's reserves to help fund the goals later down the line. Otherwise, I don't see the point in giving.
Universities and colleges. Academia is corrupt and shady. Let's cover a few of the key points. The tenure system is ridiculous. Toe the line, say the right things. Don't annoy the alumni or big donors, and you become almost impossible to fire. Adjunct professors are paid peanuts, and the use of adjuncts is becoming far more common. Tenure sucks, but so does adjunct. The politics are ridiculous, especially at the most elite institutions. You better fall in line or you're done. Tuition has shot up exponentially due to federally subsidized student loans. The shameless plunging of students into crushing debt is a disgrace. Their willingness to not tell students that majoring in anything that ends with studies is a road to economic ruin is disgusting. Endowments that could be used to reduce tuition are not, and the most elite universities have essentially become loosely regulated hedge funds. Let's not get into athleticism. The highest paid state employee in most states is usually a football or basketball coach. Most of these coaches make far more than the President of the United States. They also get incredible payouts when they get fired. Disruption cannot come soon enough to academia. The enrollment cliff is going to sting, and lots of colleges and universities are going to disappear.
Nonprofits. The way laws are at the moment, a CEO and board of directors of a nonprofit can pay themselves as much as they want, and often do in order to keep the nonprofit unprofitable. Instead of reinvesting in the nonprofit, setting up new facilities, doing more outreach, and hiring more workers, etc.
In my opinion, health insurance has forced physicians and hospitals to drastically inflate costs of care so they can absorb the very discounted contracted insurance rate that will be paid maybe by the patient's insurance company. I administrate a private practice. Our collection rate is approximately 70% overall. So if I bill the BCBS $100, I'll get paid $70. Deduct the cost of doing business, and we're not left with the exorbitant profit it may seem. In fact, we have to hustle through the day and examine as many patients as possible to make an acceptable profit. Health insurance is a racket, an absolute racket.
Property management. I think housing is a basic human right, so I think it's a scam to price gouge people to live in a poorly built and maintained apartment. A huge barrier to getting into an apartment is credit, which disproportionately affects the poor. Most places require a high security deposit if you have no credit, which most young people from poor families do not have. They also don't have the extra 1,500 or so to put down along with first month's rent. I worked in property management for a long time, and I didn't feel this way when I started out. But then I watched rent go up 20% during the pandemic, and it never came back down. There was no increase in value. They just implemented a daily pricing software called Rent Maximizer that allowed them to charge the absolute most for a unit using an algorithm and market research that amounts to collusion between the participating network of corporate landlords across the nation. And eyewitness management discussed the need to price out minimum wage workers because they supposedly weren't good residents. And then there's the racism, at least the 99% white suburb where I worked. Oh, and then there was a time that I was told it wasn't our job to make it easy for people to pay their rent. This was in response to a complaint I took to corporate over our refusal to accept direct payments from the state when people apply for eviction assistance. A single mother was evicted because we refused to accept the direct payment, and in the time it took for them to approve a physical check, we filed a writ and went through with the eviction. The next time that happened, I told the resident directly that we would not take state assistance directly and to explain to the judge when she went to court that it would take extra time to get the physical check. Luckily, with that information, the judge postponed the hearing a month and she got the check in time to keep her apartment. And then I got in trouble for giving her that information.
Car dealerships, including both sales and the service department. When my car was still under warranty, I used to take it to the dealer for service. Every single time I'm there for an oil change, they do their scare tactics. We recommend this service. Whenever I ask, do I really need it? They always say, if you skip this and that, bad things will happen. One time, they did a brake job on all four wheels. The following appointment, they again said I need a brake job on the rear wheels. I was so livid and asked them, what do you mean I need a brake job? You just did it on my last appointment. So what did I pay for the last time I was here? I caught them with their pants down. The service manager apologized. Didn't really work, though. I was still mad. And they said they'll do the rear brake job for free. I never did get a proper explanation, but this happened years ago, so I don't remember. That was the last time I went to that place for service.
Dentist. Hate to say this, but a lot of dental offices are owned by private equity companies and only focus on the dollar. Think Aspen, Comfort Dental, any modern office, Heartland offices, etc. They don't care about quality of work. Your dentist that they say will stand by their work will likely not be there in 2 to 3 years, and it will be another doc who has to pick up their pieces of failed treatment. Sorry, but there really isn't a good solution to fix it either.
The defense industry, the largest defense contract ever, the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, is a cost-plus contract, meaning there was no fixed price. Lockheed gets paid whatever they spend, plus a percent as profit. Trillions of tax dollars will be spent on it.
Automotive repair, and it is getting worse. What we need is investigators that take vehicles in with known problems and prosecute the criminals that misdiagnose or just plain sell parts and services not needed. In the 80s, California shut down all of Montgomery Ward's service departments in the state for abusing customers.
Insurance, life insurance, car insurance, health insurance, whatever. People tend to trust insurance companies, which is nuts. Nice seeming people wearing nice business clothes, sometimes in a nice office, with nice, neat forms to fill out and nice, long contracts to sign. Everything seems proper. Everything seems fair. These companies deny claims at every opportunity. That makes up a lot of their profit, the denial of valid claims. The more you pay per month, the happier they are and nicer they seem, but that doesn't make them any more likely to give any of your money back when something supposedly insured against happens. If an insurance company can deny any claim, they will. It's pure profit. Then they'll often raise your rates, seemingly as punishment for daring to file a claim. Private education, specifically career colleges. The number of shady ones that pop up as diploma mills and then disappear when regulators take notice of them is alarming, especially since the bad ones can easily close up shop and just rebrand with a new name in a new strip mall down the street. Thanks for listening. Hit the like and subscribe.